Hello.
My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 296 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 17th in the evening. From Gadgetzan, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, we've got Botticus.
Hello.
From Undercity, Pennsylvania, it's Edelweiss.
Hello.
And listener, we've got you. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. And also support us by leaving an iTunes review, totally free and really helps other people find the show. Yapow, Incredible Plum, and Electric Sheep City, thank you so much for your support of the show as our newest patrons. And also, Jonathan Vigil left us a review. Vigil, thank you so much for the support and the review. I DM'd him and was like, you didn't have to do that. And he said, well, you said it was free and helps you out, so I did it because it was free and helped you out. So, thank you, Vigil. For those unaware, Vigil is both a frequent guest over on The Angry Chicken and also kind of is the frontman of a band called The Ghost Inside. So, he's awesome.
Excuse me.
Big fan.
Sorry.
And also, we have 3 more emote slots in the channel. So, anyone that wants to submit an emote, if we approve it and we use it, we will exchange an item of Concede merch in exchange for your emote. Now, we had multiple people suggest the first emote that we ended up using, but Number Theory sent it in and with an image that we can use. For those of you in chat, get your Garys out. Concede to Gary. We have a picture of an adorable fluffy dog in our chat. It's also available in our Discord. Number Theories, thank you so much for that. And also Schwal and Forest Bates, thank you for the suggestion. And Gary, thank you for being the best boy. Yeah. So, Life and Ladder. Who wants to go first? Edelweiss, tell us what's up.
Oh gosh, it feels like not that long ago that I did that drive, but I did in fact do that before the last show. So it was a little rough on my body. So on Tuesday I got a neck and shoulders massage, which was something I've been wanting to do post vaccination, and boy am I glad I did, because I think leading into that, because of the crazy long drive, my neck was so stiff.
Remind me which drive you made? You went to Massachusetts, right? Or New Hampshire?
Yeah. 6 states in 6 hours. from Philly to New Hampshire. Kind of 6.5 at the end. But the main thing was that it was that much, and then I had to do that much back too in 2 days. So it was like 13 hours of driving in 2 days.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not used to that. And it's bad enough already that, I spend all my time in front of a computer doing this, right? Which got your neck forward. So, took care of all that tension and everything that was in my neck, and feeling much, much better, much relaxed. Also played a little bit of, I know I'm like way late on this, but I found a game that Rachel enjoys, called Baba Is You.
Oh, it's a great game. I can only play that
chill puzzle game.
I can only play that in short chunks. You say super chill. I sit there and I get a headache playing that game. Like, after about 30 minutes of just thinking.
Yet, so.
Yeah, it's... So, go ahead and describe that game for the listeners, for anyone that hasn't played it.
So this game, it may sort of change the way that you think about sort of word games, puzzle games. Essentially, it is both you move things around in terms of puzzling, and it is a word game in the sense that it sets variables like Baba is you. So like you are this little critter, but you could also have rock is you. And so like you move around all the words and different variables to sort of try and solve the puzzle. And you can do a lot of roundabout things. Like usually the most common thing is like flag is win, and so you're trying to bring Baba onto the flag. But sometimes you might have flag is win and also say flag is you, and then like you just win, right? Because you are the flag and the flag is win. So there's a lots of like out of the box thinking that goes into it.
The game has the best smack my forehead and also feel super smart moments where you stare at a screen for 25 minutes and you try a bunch of things, then something clicks and you immediately get it and you're like, I should have seen that before, but then you play it and you're like, that was awesome. And then you do it again. So I do recommend it, but it totally, like, it is brain bending in a lot of ways, so I can play it in like 30-minute chunks and I really enjoy that 30 minutes, then I go do something else.
Yeah, that seems about right. I thought of it because so my manager said that it's a game that he loves to play in his spare time, and I remember watching Hafu play it on her stream like a long time ago, and it's pretty inexpensive, $15 if it's not on sale. And Rachel really likes doing the New York Times spelling bee. So I figured, like, it's got that puzzling and word game element, and yeah, we nailed it. So my hope is that we can go from this kind of puzzle game to maybe one day doing something like It Takes Two. We'll see. That's 2-player cooperative puzzle game, but 3D and more actiony.
Yeah, definitely a different kind of puzzler. But yeah, it's I do really enjoy Baba's You. We have it on Switch. My wife and I have played it together a few times. Maybe you could do something like Return to the Obra Dinn. Maybe that's a good next step. It's also one of my favorite games in recent memory. But yeah,
Check it out.
What about Hearthstone?
Hearthstone, I've been playing Control Shaman, which I'm still teching and trying to figure out. And weirdly enough, the deck that I beat the most has been Priest, because they don't know what I'm doing. So,
do you know what you're doing?
I do. I am playing Alakir, Lightning Bloom, Note Taker, Nightmare, kill you. Yeah.
You mentioned that
That's
last week, and still seems quite powerful. Yeah, I also have to imagine they don't know when to Elucia you, or do not realize that if they go Elucia into Alakir that you can't win the game.
Yeah, it's been super weird. I honestly have seen 0 Elucias. I don't know if it's just been pulled from decks, or if I fell enough that I'm not seeing it because people aren't playing OTK Demon Hunter, or what's going on. But yeah, I definitely have not been getting Elucia'd. And I think it's either because they're not running it or because they just don't know that they should. Because they look at like how they look at what I could do to their hand after they Elucia, and they don't realize that they need to do something to my hand. So yeah, definitely relying on the closed deck list element of ladder to my advantage there.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you've been finding the fun as expected. Bodikus, how about you? How you been doing? How's your life in ladder?
In terms of Hearthstone, haven't been playing a ton. Been playing a bit here and there. I think I tried out the Elemental Shaman we had in last week's Decksplanations, and that deck did not feel great. I'm sure it performs okay, but it did not feel particularly good. And then I picked up what I think was listed as a Control Shaman. It didn't have the Alakir stuff in there, but it basically I just won every game by playing a Doom Hammer and hitting my opponent in the face for like 45 damage. I mean,
That's I mean, that is a kind of control. So was that the one? Did you have Headmaster Kel'Thuzad in there?
Yeah, it had Kel'Thuzad plus
and Tidal Surge.
Yeah,
but not Tidal Wave.
No.
Yeah, so that was Randlet's. I called it Spell Boost Shaman, where like you have a ton of AoE, and then also sometimes you just like Kel'Thuzad Torrent or Kel'Thuzad Perpetual Flame, and then your opponent's stuff dies. And the Moarg as well is really, really nice for clearing boards.
Yeah, I mostly didn't do that. I mostly just played a Doom Hammer and hit my opponents in the face. That's mostly what happened.
I must
Yeah.
have been doing that one wrong because I did not have much luck with that list. And it felt like it should be very powerful, like you're getting sort of best of both worlds in a way. But I just was not really getting wins with it.
Did you like
Yeah, I don't
Soul
know.
Demon
My
Hunter back in the
opponents-
day?
My opponents never had any minions, and then they never didn't have any life. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Actually, I'm lying. I went 5-3. It was just feels. The 3 must have been all in a row. They
Yeah,
were.
see-
The 3 were all in a row. That's why.
I think I went like 50-50 with Elemental Shaman and it felt like I went 0-10. It just like I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna play my minion. I hope that it's good, and the next turn I'm gonna play another minion. Oh, this turn I get to play a weapon. Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, it's.
That was my experience with the deck.
I think as we called it last week, and I did a co-op with Itinerant Wizard, and we also just didn't have great luck with Elemental Shaman. I called it very sequence heavy, that you really need to play your cards in a prescribed order, and your opponent immediately knows what that order is as soon as you play about 3 turns. And it seems like it's pretty hard to get a competitive edge, and also pretty hard to avoid just top decking. And maybe you draw a Dungeoneer, maybe you don't. But we played a mirror match where our opponent got a Dungeoneer and we didn't, and they were exactly 2 cards ahead at the end of the game, and that was all that mattered. That I remember Aaron Forsythe, he's the director of Magic R&D, that said if I removed every piece of card draw from the standard format and then printed Divination, which is Arcane Intellect, which is 3 mana, draw 2 cards, how much extra life would you pay for that? Would you do like 3 mana, draw 2, pay 5 life, if that was the only card draw in the format? And you think about it. So when the card draw is so limited that there's one card in the deck that draws you more cards, that can come down to the win or the loss, along with these early game, minion combat, but very much in an order that you can expect every turn. And we're going to talk about that a good bit later in the show as well, about how some of the decks in Standard are pretty predictable.
I mean, this is why my take on Elemental Shaman includes the Wind Fury elemental, the 4-drop.
Oh, Fantastic Firebird.
Yeah, Firebird. And Mistrunner. So the only spells are Bloom instead of the burn stuff that, like, while it's good tempo or good finisher, it disrupts your sequencing in terms of elementals. The game plan for mine is you always get Bloom off of the 3-drop, the 2/3, the Dungeoneer, and you just Bloom Mistrunner when you stick Wind Fury. It's great.
Yeah, makes sense to me. It's I think that Shaman without Bloom is kind of missing something. That's something that I've noticed, that I really, really miss it when I don't have Bloom in a Shaman deck. And there have been a few times I've tried to play Shaman decks without it, but I feel like I always really want it.
Yeah, so played that. Just before the show, I had a quest to place a bunch of Murlocs, and I fired up Murloc Shaman and Wild. And even though that deck, I think, was almost similar to Elemental Shaman in Standard, just like a souped-up version, obviously, because it's Wild, it felt better. And probably just because I won 2 games in a row real quick, because I played some Murlocs and they got real big, and my opponent died very quickly. But
it's a lot faster, at least.
Yes.
It also has a comeback mechanic. I mean, it's not like
I
super
also
reliable.
played a Firemancer Flurgle and one minion. I wiped my opponent's entire board, and it was great.
Yep.
And that wasn't even a poisonous minion. It was just, it's wild, so everything has 1 health and a billion attack.
And Underbelly Angler is Sethic Veilweaver, except instead of chaining spells that you dirtle around with, you just kill them. They just die. And you have 4 Bloodlust now. So, like, 4 Bloodlust is better than 0 Bloodlust, which you have in Standard.
Right.
Yeah.
And also I'm playing Burning Crusade. Anyway, go ahead, Hat. How's your life in ladder been?
How did Classic get you? How did that happen?
Because I didn't play Classic. I played Burning Crusade back in the day.
Oh, right. That was your first expansion, wasn't it?
Right.
So of course
it was the first. I started playing when that was the only when that was the option.
Yes.
Like I didn't start I didn't start and then have that as the expansion like a little ways in. It was just started with Burning Crusade, and my friend who I played with back in the day is playing, so probably just going to do some dungeons with him. Avoid doing 25-man raids unless they're actually efficient, because that experience is pretty terrible. And yeah, just kind of. I mean, I'm still on my way to 70. It takes a while. Even with the boost, you know, but getting to do all those old zones again is pretty cool. I remember all of that. There's a good nostalgia feeling to it. I don't know how long it'll last, but
See,
so far it's been enjoyable.
My version of MMO nostalgia is just rewatching The King's Avatar. So I've never played an MMO, but that's a good show about an MMO.
I don't even know what that
Never
show
heard
is.
of it. Yeah.
On Netflix. You can check it out.
Yeah. As for me, I have been dabbling in a whole bunch of different stuff. So let's see. The game stuff, I thought about the games that I'm playing every day. I'll just list them here. Hearthstone, Slay the Spire, and Legends of Runeterra. I'm playing those 3 every day right now. There has been some, I want to do some more Hades runs, but I had some issues with my Bluetooth controller the other day that I hadn't really figured out yet. And that's a little bit more time consuming and sit down and whatever. But Legends of Runeterra, this is the first time I've stayed engaged in the game for more than a couple weeks, because their single-player labs mode, their roguelike, is just so my jam. It's just so everything I'm looking for, where you make really, really crazy upgrades and combinations, and you get some upgrade after every run. So it is the only time I've stayed with the game more than 3 weeks since closed beta. And I'm not laddering a ton. I played a little bit of ladder this week, but it's mostly just labs. It's mostly just the roguelike version. Still doing that every day. In Hearthstone, I am not playing a ton of standard. In Wild, I want to get more Demon Hunter wins, and so I queued up Odd Demon Hunter as mentioned, but then a friend of mine and listener, Alu on Twitter, he sent me Draco Cat's big DH list. I'm going to put this up on the screen, because I want everyone to see this list.
Wait, in
Wild? In Wild.
What?
Because it's not just a big DH, it's Undertaker Death Rattle DH.
Oh, no.
With a big demon
no.
high end. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. I want. And the deck code is in the show notes. And it is weird and does not play Skull, but plays Double Glide. And my MMR in Wild is not...
Excuse me?
My MMR in Wild... Double Glide, 2 glides, the 4-mana spell that when you outcast it...
I don't understand.
Because if you get the big demons in your hand, you got to put them back so you can get them with your pick commander. Think about that sentence for a bit. But also, okay.
What?
But also, my MMR in Wild, I am X10, but I am not playing a ton of players that are really highly invested in winning matches, I don't think. Because I played against a Mill Druid today, which is not the most competitive archetype. But then they filled up both of our hands. You know what was glowing in the far left on turn 5? You know?
Oh, boy.
We hit him with the glide. Hit him with the glide. Nice Cold Light Oracle, nice 2/2, nice Forest Guide. Hit him with the glide. And then the Fell Summoner came down. The 6-mana 8/3 when it dies, you drop a demon in play. Drop down the Taint. Hit him with the Taint Heart Tormentor. For those that are unfamiliar with that card for some reason, that's the 8-mana 8/8 demon with taunt that all of your opponent's spells cost 2 more. So you hit him with the Taint. Throw it out there. I'm 3-0 with this today, including a start.
Okay.
Including a start with Undertaker into Razorboar Coin True Aim Crescent, which was very good against the Murloc Shaman I was playing against. And, you know, I mean, it's an Undertaker deck. You've got basically 3 sections, right? You've got Undertaker, Death Rattle, Aggro. You've got big demons, and then right in the middle, holding them together, like the lettuce on a BLT, is 2 glides that were just great every time I played them. Just great every time I played them.
And you can't forget the Albatross for those Raza priests.
Well, yeah, you gotta. I
Or
did
any Reno
indeed.
deck, really.
So I played against a Reno Shutterwalk Shaman, which may or may not be a real thing. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And so my opponent did Reno when they were at 7, but then I popped the bird, and we got down a pit commander, and they played Zephyrus, and nothing happened, and then they lost to my Illidari Inquisitors. What you gonna do? So, finding the fun here. Been enjoying that, getting my Demon Hunter wins. Playing a little bit of Conquest here, a little bit of coaching there. Not a ton of Standard right now. And Slay the Spire, I do the daily climb every day in my train. It's Slay the Spire. And hopefully, the update just came to Switch, and it's hopefully going to hit iOS this month so I can do it on the iPad. Soon. We'll be back to buffed Blade Dance territory.
I keep staring at the Dead Cells update and thinking, like, am I going to dive into that? Am I going to do it? I don't know.
It's pretty grindy, but I enjoyed it on Switch. I wouldn't want to play that on mobile because the controls are pretty important. But on Switch, it was fun. I had a little bit of time extra last week because the recording didn't take that long to edit because one of the co-hosts forgot to record their track. So I got to skip, doing all the crosstalk editing and whatever. So it was nice. I was glad to have that extra time.
I'll end my recording right now, Hat. Don't you dare. I'll end it right now. You'll get to do it all again this week.
But I have to teach how to
come on. I've got to learn to edit eventually.
It's okay. See, I delayed it. You thought that it was going to be right at the beginning. No. I delayed. I waited. Like a big demon hunter. So anyway.
The name for the show title is going to be Held Together but with Glide.
Yes.
Would you say, Hat, that was Slimpo?
No, I wouldn't say that because that's not a word that I would say or a word at all. Anyways, you get to be right in like now-ish, so don't worry. All right. So let's go to the news. Lighter news week, but we definitely have a significant item that we'd like to talk about. So let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so as Het said, bit of a lighter news week, but we did get a patch, a small patch in the client, patch 20.4.2, that has an update that's never been seen before. We have a card that was banned, but only banned in Wild. That would be Stealer of Souls. And there's a dev comment here saying that we decided to ban Stealer of Souls in Wild, where it caused many games to stray too far away from the type of gameplay we're aiming for. After deliberating on the appropriate action, we decided to ban the card in order to maintain its current and healthier function in Standard, as well as eliminate the problems it caused in Wild. We do not have plans to ban many cards in the future. Bans will be reserved for cards creating extreme gameplay issues where there is no great solution for all formats. Since this is the first decision of its kind in Hearthstone, we'd love to hear feedback. We'll continue to monitor the card in all modes and formats to determine if further action is needed elsewhere. When Stealer of Souls rotates into Wild, we'll reposition it for the Wild environment and remove the ban. If there are any balance changes to Stealer of Souls before then, we'll re-evaluate the ban.
So, real quick.
I think the interesting conversation about this is not about whether it should be changed for Wild or not, but whether we should consider the possibility of banning something in Wild so that it can stay the same in Standard.
Wild exists for every card to be legal, and it has to stay that way. No, it doesn't. I was wrong.
Nailed it.
More like Edel right. Huh? Yeah. You called it, and I was wrong between the episode finishing recording and the episode being published.
Yeah, it really was the next day, wasn't it?
Under 24 hours later.
Oh, brilliant. My feedback is if it's going to make me right, absolutely, just do it anytime.
So, how do we feel about this in general? Because this is a new and interesting precedent.
Yeah, I honestly, despite what I said, I did think that you were more likely to be correct in this case, just because it would be the first time, right? So you don't assume that they're going to do something new. That being said, it would have been such a shame to me to see something like plot twist get a nerf, or something like that. It would be really kind of bizarre because plot twist doesn't really deserve a nerf. It would make more sense if they wanted to hit dark glare, although again, that's something that is in both wild and standard still.
Well, and Dark Glare wasn't in the Stealer deck, I don't think, or at least wasn't the reason
really?
why. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, you don't play Stealer because it doesn't work as soon as you're immune. So it also doesn't do anything for the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a thing that was just problematic because there were ways of making yourself immune in wild, which there are not in standard. Yeah, obviously we'll be on the lookout for cases where this kind of thing happens again. And, it's not something you want to do too much of. But I'm glad that they've opened themselves up to this additional balancing tool.
I think that any change that they make that reduces the amount of secret mages in wild is an okay change for me. So I'm happy with this change because I was actually, after they announced that it was going to be banned in wild, I was watching a friend of mine who was grinding wild, and it was 70 to 80% of his games felt like he was playing against secret mage. It was just like, oof, that's not something. I don't know. Like, I appreciate that secret mage exists, but I appreciate when it exists in an amount that is reasonable and not 50% a ladder because people don't want to lose to Stealer of Souls.
It's funny how that happens too, right? It's not that the Stealer of Souls deck became like the absurd dominating thing. It was that people got so upset about losing to it that they played this other deck.
The meta was definitely warped, as it has been, well, basically every time they've released a set in the past while. Yeah. Because with Ashes, Demon Hunter was good enough.
This expansion, did it get warped until the mini set?
Hand Buff Paladin was the best deck in the format. I don't know if it was warped. The meta was actually pretty healthy because when Hand Buff Paladin's the best thing, then that's probably a good place for the format to be. But Hand Buff Paladin was also an OTK deck, and it looked like a minion deck, but then you would just die to 20 damage from hand because they would play.
They also got rid of, or they made the Murloc not have Wind Fury, which probably made that deck a lot worse.
Yes, that deck a lot worse. The first day
Murloc deck a lot worse.
Was significant. The Watch Post nerf killed Tax Paladin. The Sword nerf really hurt all Secret Paladin. Like, they nerfed a whole bunch of Paladin cards and a whole bunch of neutrals that were really good in Paladin. And they nerfed Refreshing Springwater, which made combo mages much worse because you can still play those, but they're way less good now. But this is the thing about Wild, is that the format really wants to be a combo format. And it gets to be a combo format until they actively adjust it, which they have done for the past every expansion and mini set, right? In Ashes, they had to nerf a bunch of Demon Hunter cards because the brand new class was good enough in the format where you could play every card. Probably too good, right? Odd Demon Hunter got to play Altruist and Skull on day one. Kind of disgusting. Kind of insane. They nerfed a bunch of stuff. Skullomance, they nerfed Dark Glare. And Secret Passage because Kingsbane Rogue drawing 10 cards for 2 mana was too much. In Darkmoon Fair, when Darkmoon Fair first came out, I don't know if they nerfed anything. Darkmoon Races, they had to nerf Hysteria, obviously. And then Barons, they've now had to nerf a bunch of cards that were relevant in Wild. So they're clearly acting as though they are balancing Wild as though it is Wild, right? As though it's a format they care about. They're spending resource on it, but this is a new way to do it. I think I like it, but I don't know if I like it. It's
also, Nomad saying in the chat that Hambus Paladin matchup spread was pretty unhealthy. That's kind of beside the point for Wild, because not everybody was playing hand buff Paladin, even if they should. Like, even if it was the deck to play, I think it had a healthy play percentage, or a healthier play percentage, whereas this nerf to, or this ban of Stealer of Souls is going to make the entire format healthier, because people will be able to play decks outside of Stealer of Souls and Secret Mage and I guess Pirate Warrior, and like I saw a little bit of Pirate Warrior and a little bit of what's the other really aggressive deck?
Either some kind of rogue, either Odd or Kingsbane, or also Odd Demon Hunter.
Yeah, Odd Demon Hunter. Odd Demon Hunter was it was Murdoch was playing Stealer, and
Okay.
it was those were the 3 decks he said he had problems with, and he saw
Yeah.
the most. But the one I saw him play against far and away more than anything else was Mages.
It's Wild is a format that doesn't have easy answers, because the format it wants to be is the format that it would be with every expansion if they just didn't touch cards there, and they're really actively curating it, even though they said they wouldn't, because the format turns into a gross combo format immediately after every expansion, then they put it back. And they keep putting it back, and that is a sort of curation. It's not adding things to the format. It's you add things by taking the new things away, and you keep it in kind of this. But it keeps coming back to the same thing, right? They keep nerfing until Reno Priest and Dark Lair are the best decks every time. So I don't know. I don't think the format was better with Stealer legal, and I think the ban is a totally fine tool for them to use. I just don't understand why that's the place they keep coming back to, because thinking about it, Wild is really actively being nudged. Really, really actively being adjusted every expansion, but in a different way than Standard is. More so, Wild is putting things back, and that's all they're doing, and they're rewinding the clock. But there are new things, and then the new things are going away. Now, the Hand Buff Paladin, I think, would have still existed in Wild if they didn't have to nerf it for Standard, but they did have to nerf it for Standard.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think their focus is most likely going to be Standard first, and if it has a ancillary effect to Wild, then I don't know that you really need to touch it too much, because obviously they didn't touch it other than the Standard nerfs, and it seems to have fallen more in line now.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue as well is, getting these new cards that then interact in crazy ways with older cards, and you get combo again. Combo is the genre, the style of play that I think people respond most viscerally to. Like, you either love combo or you hate combo. It seems to me. And, obviously that tends to correspond with which side of it you're on. But I think people see the power of what's being done and can sometimes overreact to how it feels, despite what a win rate might be. So, like, the feeling of what happened when you lost to Stealer of Souls, I think was pretty awful. Same as people furiously hated losing to Cavern of Souls and
To what?
Cavern of Souls? Quest Rogue.
Quest Rogue, yes. Crystal Caverns. The Caverns Below.
Crystal Caverns.
Yeah.
Caverns Below. Can't do names.
Yes.
Yeah, Quest Rogue.
Yeah, it's I think combo is the one where people tend to get the least game actions while the other player tends to get a lot of them. And so that,
right,
it becomes very one-sided very clearly, and people just die out of nowhere, and that's something that they've generally tried to curtail, but they haven't deleted it. Lifesteal DH has been a thing in Standard since they printed Il'gynoth. And, the deck is not overpowered, but the deck is present and will kill you from hand, and has been doing so for, 7 months?
Yeah, I'm honestly...
Also doesn't take that many steps, though.
Well, you have to survive for a while and draw a bunch of cards, and usually you have to draw through your whole deck. It's just there's not enough. But
that's over, it's over a bunch of turns, whereas the Stealer deck is just You literally have to wait and hope that the rope finishes before they're able to play the Cataclysm. Like you don't want that to be the experience, right? Just hoping that the rope finishes. Lifesteal DH, it's more just like you play 5 cards and they're dead, and then it's like, okay. Plus, waiting for the animation on both sides is just miserable, honestly.
Yeah, Stealer had to go. I think that we all know that, and regardless of win rate, doesn't matter if it's good or not. It matters if people are playing it and if it sucks to be around. And the answer was yes to both. So you got to do something about that. There are a lot of ways to change it. The ban itself, I think, is just an interesting twist on a normal nerf. I'm glad they kept it in standard. It's no one's playing it right now. I think they're hoping people will in the future. But the question of what to do about wild is a large and interesting one. And I don't think that we really got a clear answer either. Because I don't know if Team 5 has a clear answer to that. But that's not all they did this patch.
Yep. So in addition to that, we got a few Battlegrounds updates. The first one of which I was somewhat surprised to see, but I think is very warranted. Captain Flat Tusk got a relatively sizable nerf, I guess. So it used to be every 3 gold you spend, you get a blood gem, and now you have to spend 4 gold to get a blood gem. So
it's a 25% nerf to the efficiency of the card, right?
Pretty. I mean, but this card was very significant. You would it was, unless you were already in another archetype or going for another archetype, this was always a safe pick on your tier 5 triples. So and then also would obviously have like extreme cases where you would get this plus the 5 drop that you said before the show, or the 5-star minion.
Kangors? No, Agam. Agam Thornburst.
Agam. And then this plus Agam, and the right board is just, you just kind of snowball out of control a little too fast. So I like the nerf. I think it's probably still going to be okay, but haven't had a chance to play with it with the new stats, so we'll kind of see. In addition, they changed Kangor's Apprentice. So Kangor's used to be a 6-star 3/6 with Death Rattle Summon, the first 2 friendly mechs that died, and then it went up to a 4/8. They improved the health and toughness, which did nothing really because it's a 6-star minion, and that's not really where you need stats at that point in the game. So they're making it a 5-star minion now and back to a 3/6. And Hat was saying that this card used to be okay back in the day when mechs were busted, and I think that just mechs were busted, and this card is I don't know. I don't know that this is the way to do it, but I'll be interested to see where it lies out, because I don't know, I don't find myself in mechs almost ever anymore.
No, the design is incredibly outdated. Kangor's
need Cobalt back.
I don't even think that's enough. The way that scaling works is so different now than it was when mechs were good. So Kangor's Rivendare mechs were the way that you could beat Poison Murlocs back in the day. You would just make so much stuff and you would chew through all of their stats, and you'd hit them with a Foe Reaper, and then the Foe Reaper would come back, or you get the eggs back, and the eggs get bigger, and they drop some 16/16s, whatever. But that was a very long time ago in Battlegrounds history, and scaling, as we've discussed a few times, when they decided they want things like Kaligos and Little Rag and Nomi to be the way you play, when you have a wide board of big stats, Mechs does nothing that's anywhere near that and cannot compete with it, and Junkbot is not the answer. You're not doing that with Junkbots. You're not killing people with Junkbots before people get to 6. So this is the hope that you make a board that's really annoying, but I don't think that I don't think that you're likely to win more because you hit the Kangor's Apprentice quickly on tier 4. Maybe you do, but it just feels like an outdated way to build a comp. And mechs, I think, are the ones, along with demons, that really stand out as just needing a rework. Just needing take them out of the game and work on them and bring them back. Demons are actually closer, I think, now that they keep giving them new things, like the new Hex Ruin Destroyer, the thing that cares if you have 6 or less minions, is really interesting, and seems pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'd be curious if Kangor as a 5 ever gives you the opening to, kill some people in the mid game. It kind of depends on what mechs you're reviving, though.
Yeah, I don't even know what you bring back.
I think the problem is that temporary stats are only good in the early parts of the game, and all of the comps that do well now have permanently gaining stats. So you probably need to remove Junkbot and replace it with a Junkbot that gets permanent stats when mechs die, and then maybe mechs can start to keep up.
Yeah.
Make it just like a 1/2 that gets 1+1+1 every time a mech dies and just keeps that +1. And then maybe mechs start doing things again. But until something like that gets added, mechs just don't seem like they're in a great spot. You pretty much just get you either get an Anoyo module on a mech and buff it with Agam, or you get one that already has Divine Shield and buff it with Agam, and you have one mech on your board. And so Kangors isn't really the way to do it. Yeah, you just can't, like, you used to be able to kaboom bot people, like when you could get golden kaboom bots and just
Oh
kaboom
yeah, with
bot
the
people's
Rivendare
boards
and
away.
just yeah, that was fun.
Like that used to be viable, but it's just you can't, like, if they survive if they can survive it for a turn, you're just going to get outscaled by the next turn because there's no way to like scale your explosions, I guess. That'd be interesting if there was like a way to scale your explosions more, but I don't know how you just can't. I don't know how you do that. It's so hard. It would be so hard. Like, it's so hard to get golden Rivendares now, it feels like, because games end so quickly. And usually that would be the way you would do it, right? Is you would eventually just build up to having a golden king or a golden Baron with 2 golden kaboom bots, and then you can get there, but you're just like dead before then, and you're outscaled before then, so I don't really know what you do.
And they've done a good job of making pirates a lot better by making Eliza better, and so maybe they have some kind of tier 6 that makes all of your mechs better, because mechs don't have global scaling. They have local scaling, but nothing global, and they're currently at the top 20%. They are currently the worst tribal composition. They are ahead of Full Taunt. They are better than Champion of Yasharaj build, which is not really a build that you take in the late game. But otherwise, it is the worst tribal build in the game. So maybe the Kangor's buff will make it better, but I don't have a lot of faith. We'll see. Battleground seems so incredibly difficult to design. Really, really hard to do and really hard to balance. So
Man, magnetic boom bot. Oh, that would be so sick.
That'd be pretty.
Oh, that would actually be, even if it only did like 2 damage instead of 4 damage, just like stacking it
would still have
stacking
to
up
do,
a bunch.
I think it would still have to do a decent amount of damage.
I mean, but think if you could just keep putting it on a minion after a minion after a minion after a minion, and just keep doing it. If it's like a 3-star minion that did, it could be like a 3-star 2/2 that did 2 damage and with magnetic, and it would probably be.
I think you underestimate how important it is that it does 4 damage. Like, it falls off pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you make it do more. I don't know.
It's the way they've been designing Battlegrounds lately. I think they would probably aim for the higher damage than tune it down if they need to, because you don't want it to be unimpactful. And magnetic also has the downside that you need to have an open spot in the board to use it. So yep. I could easily see them just make. Chad is suggesting making Boombot magnetic, and I think that would be interesting.
Or you make it scale based on your tavern tier.
Sure.
You could have it scale off your tavern tier, and it caps out at 6.
I think that that's an idea worth exploring. So Abra SC suggested that in chat. Good suggestion, Abra. You made us think.
There have been BG's positions open, and that's not something I can go for.
I don't even know like how you would do that. It seems like such a complex mode of design, and every new cool thing they come up with ends up being kind of broken because the cool things are broken. I don't know. They did a couple bug fixes too. My favorite one is the first one. Fixed a bug that caused a copied Archdruid Neralex to give dream cards to the wrong player. So if you mirror entity'd a Neralex, the player that played the Neralex originally got 0, they put them into the opponent's hand. It just gave them away.
That's odd.
I was entertained, but I'm glad they fixed it, I suppose. And also, Reconnect on mobile, I tested today, it worked. Apparently in the last patch it was not working, it totally worked today. I was playing on the train, I dropped and immediately rejoined. Hooray. What else we got?
All right. Yeah, so just a couple more small items here. So we have a tweet from the Book of Mercenaries designer, just trying to get a bit more player feedback. They ratcheted up the difficulty of Book of Mercenaries Guff compared to past books, and wondering how folks are feeling about the change. And it seems about half the people were saying it's just about right. Like it seems like overall a good change. Some people saying still too easy, some people saying a bit too hard now, but the majority of people are saying that the increase in difficulty was just about right.
I didn't
I
play it
haven't played it yet.
Yeah. I doubt any of us did. I wanted to put this out there because it was direct developer feedback. I don't typically play these. It is Guff, and Guff is my boy, so I have a trip this weekend, so I may dive into this because it seems like good train or car content. But I haven't played it yet. But a lot of the Book of Heroes, I was really turned off by either how easy they were or how scripted they were, and it seems like this is a departure from both of those things, and that they're pushing it to be a little bit more engaging. The tweet replies are more positive, indicating that the engaged players are happier with the increased difficulty. Have heard that the mutinous fight is a little unpleasant, but I haven't played it myself. So
I mean, I played a few of the Book of Heroes. I would die every once in a while, so I don't know how much up the difficulty is on this, but
yeah, I'm glad they're willing to experiment with that as well. But it's not content that I engage with a lot, so I don't, just mostly wanted to share with the listeners and whatever you thought. We'd love to hear if you thought it was, more engaging, more interesting because of the change, or if you didn't even notice it, or if you didn't like it.
you haven't had a chance, have you, Edelweiss, to play Book of Mercenaries, the
I
Guff one?
have some serious catching up to do, actually. Yeah, I
I
think
think we all do.
3 behind.
I'm like 4 or 5 behind, I think.
Yeah, I'm just not. I think since I have been doing more of I play Hearthstone when I'm streaming, I tend to not really be interested in streaming the Book of Mercenaries. So that just means I end up putting it off, and also I get in a zone of like trying to figure out a deck that I'm working on, and I just haven't gotten around to the solo adventure stuff.
My guess
Honestly,
would be
the thing
that
for me is it feels like an offline thing, right? Something that I would want to do offline, but you can't really, as far as I know, you can't. And I already had like my other offline stuff that I do is like chess puzzles or whatever. Like just something that I would equate this to would be something I could do quickly, like 3 or 4 minutes, play through one of the parts of the chapters of the book, and then close and go do something else. But I just find myself finding, because it's just like quicker to get into offline clients and get something done there.
Yeah, I wish that I could do some of this stuff offline. I wish I could do Dungeon Run or Dalaran Heist or whatever offline too, but it's just not there yet. That would really be a big difference maker, actually. Because I have to stop playing this when I get on the train, and that's where Slay the Spire comes in. But if I had the opportunity to play Book of Mercs, like downloaded or whatever, that would make a big difference. Maybe, but
this is
go ahead.
not a thing for me right now, but when I think of like going to conventions, dream hacks, etc., flying places, there's always like, if I don't want to pay for internet on the plane, which I usually don't, having an offline game mode is really nice. It would be great to be able to like catch up on the solo content on the plane.
On JetBlue, the Wi-Fi is included. Big fan.
Right? Is it functional though? Is it worth
Yes.
anything?
Well, so it's
Okay.
I wouldn't want to play a ladder game, but I will
Right.
absolutely play
Yeah.
PvE content. I did that in my last flight. So yeah,
Noted. JetBlue.
big fan. JetBlue, you're welcome to sponsor us.
And our last news item for the week is a tweet from Celestalon. And those of you who are interested in Nozdormu Day, they're potentially planning on having it be an in-client thing available eventually. I assume it will take a while to have this be a thing, but honestly, it's kind of exciting. It's one of those things where I feel like Nozdormu Day comes and passes, and then I forget. And I was like, man, I wish I would have tried a couple games and hope to run into a Nozdormu game a couple days ago. But I think it's like a really cool concept that I hope comes to a bit more of a mainstay eventually, because I would like to play some Nozdormu games. I think it'd be fun.
I think the solution here, if I were designing a solution here, I would make a legendary quest that appears on the 15th, where if you play like 3 games with Nozdormu in your deck or something, then you get a pack or something along those lines. Like you make a legendary quest that pops up. Because a lot of the people that I've talked to that have tried this, they get so disheartened because it never triggers. And this was the first month where I saw people where it triggers because people are bored. So making it something where there's a real payoff on that day, you just make a legendary quest pop up in that 4th slot on the top row and just make it so you could make it so either Nozdormu has to trigger, or you could make it so play X games with Nozdormu in your deck and then give a payoff for it. That's the way to do it. I hope they do that.
I think
There's
that'd be
got to
great,
be some
actually.
extra incentive, because I feel like it's been sort of a game of chicken where like a bunch of us are like, well, I don't want to do it unless I know it's going to be active, because then what's the point? And you're just playing a worse version of your deck, and then no one's going in and doing it, and those who are, there's not enough out there.
Yeah, like I want to take the rogue list that I'm playing and cut Vanessa for Nozdormu, but sometimes Vanessa's playable off Foxy on turn 1, and sometimes I never want an 8-mana 7/7, so it has to be active for me to enjoy it. Yeah, or 6 mana. What? I don't know how much it costs.
It's a 7-mana 8/8.
7-mana 8/8.
I don't want that thing in my deck.
I guess what you could do, so on the 15th, I guess everybody gets that quest, and on the 16th it automatically rerolls.
Well, it'd be a legendary quest. They can have 4 quests on the top now. They have the functionality for an extra. So they just give you an extra that goes away if you don't use it.
Oh, so instead, I was just thinking like that's always the quest you get on the 15th, and if you don't want to complete it, you just wait till the next day and then it rerolls into a different quest.
Yeah, I want it to be a bonus quest, like a bonus 1-day legendary quest.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Either way works, but costing someone a reroll, sometimes people use a lot of rerolls, especially if they're...
you just make it not cost a reroll.
You could do that.
It just rerolls automatically.
Yeah, it's doable. I'm hoping that they do something, and I'm glad they're thinking about it.
Yep.
It's a light news week, so... Tournaments? You ready? Let's talk about tournaments in the meta. Let's go.
It's the grand tournament!
Masters Tour Dalaran is this weekend, and, well, I think the times are really only great for people watching in Asia. And I think the times are maybe the worst possible in Europe. This event takes place on the Asia Pacific time zone. So that's 9 a.m. Japan Standard Time, which means 2 a.m. Central European Summertime is when it starts. So the European players all have to start playing at 2 in the morning. 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. So it's a long night or morning or whatever time period that is for the Western players. But the Eastern players, they're starting bright and early in their morning. They get to play throughout the day. So I'm curious to see how many European players bring Priest, but you kind of have to bring Priest to this event anyways. So that's happening this weekend. And also, drops are back on YouTube. So if you watch on YouTube, you can get some drops. Link your account. Get some stuff. I'm curious to see what this event looks like, but I imagine it will be... I doubt there are going to be a lot of really crazy creative decks that we see, just because I don't think the format has the depth for that. You're going to see Priest and Warrior in most lineups, a lot of Druids, probably a decent amount of Rogues, and then we'll see what else people decide to bring. Could be a Demon Hunter here, could be a Shaman there, probably a good bit of Lifesteal DH. I expect Priest to be banned a lot. We'll see. Yeah. And then, Qualifier decks. We have data on the second weekend of Qualifiers now, and things are a little bit more stable and a little bit more refined. The best decks, to the surprise of nobody: Rush Warrior, Rogue, Priest, Aggro Shaman, kind of a new one. The worst decks: Control Warlock, still bad. Control Warrior, still bad. Face Hunter, Weapon Rogue. Weapon Rogue doesn't even beat Priest anymore. And Elemental Shaman. Doesn't really stand up all that well in the Conquest format. Lineups are kind of all over the place, but almost all of them include Rush Warrior. Most of them include Control Priest. OTK Demon Hunter's doing alright. Token and Clown Druid both doing alright. General strategy: you're either banning Priest or you're targeting Priest. 37% of the time, Priest is getting banned. So, almost half. Yeah, have you been doing any Conquest prep, Edelweiss, with the team?
Not recently. We're sort of, I think, kind of winding down. We have a few people who are remaining in Aspirant, Cookie and Risen. We just finished up DHL and didn't make playoffs. People have been doing better in Aspirant than in DHL. And I think when it comes to qualifiers, we're all sort of tired of what's going on in terms of best of 3 conquest. There's various attempts, with like Noglako is pretty big on Token Druid, but occasionally we'll just try OTK Demon Hunter because it seems to go better. I think we're all sort of tired of Priest.
Yeah, it's Priest is something, and we'll talk about this a bit in the next section as well, but Priest is kind of a fact of life, both at High Legend and in any Conquest environment right now. It is simply too good to not play. It is very powerful when in the right hands, and there are not really a consistent spread of 4 decks you can bring that beat it. And it has a good matchup against some of the other best Conquest decks. In particular, Rush Warrior really stands out. And also, if you're going to face Priest in any kind of Conquest environment, there aren't enough good aggro decks to build a full Smork lineup. So you just kind of have to play mid-rangey stuff or control-y stuff or both. Especially in best of 5 Conquest with 4 decks. In best of 3, you can kind of get away with, you could maybe do like a Token Druid, Face Hunter, Aggro Shaman or something. Few people did that. But it's not commonly successful. And if we look at the latest Vicious Syndicate report, which also just came out, development is really limited to a few of the classes that got some newer options. Death Rattle Demon Hunter, seeing some refinement. Do you include Felsteel Executioner or not? Probably not, but maybe. Priest is actually diversifying. Especially on ladder, there is a regular Priest and there is a full Yoink Priest. If you want to go back to running Cabal, Acolyte, and Wave of Apathy. You can also include Against All Odds, if you want a guaranteed 2-card board clear. Shaman is, of course, the most interesting and varied class that's learning and changing. And Rush Warrior has a few options. Do you Sourfang? Do you N'Zoth? Do you neither? Whatever. But not a lot of really crazy new decks. Wailing Caverns, the cards mattered. But how many new archetypes outside of Shaman did it enable? Not that many. Do we have feelings about that? I think we do. Should we talk about them? So,
yeah, this meta is honestly kind of strange. I think it feels sort of like a pug, right? It both young and a face as old as time. Like a lot of these things feel familiar, but with new cards, some slight differences. If we look at archetypes people are playing, there's like a controlly priest. There's kind of mid-range / aggro shaman. There's not a ton of generation. It feels like a lot, but if you think about it, the number of cards that actually generate is not that great. It's honestly Raise Dead that really does the multiplying in Priest, I would say.
yeah, I mean, it's if you play a full priest game, there's the deck list on the left side of the screen will get very long. There's a lot of generation over the course of that game, but in terms of every class having access to a lot or seeing Dragon Queen Alex Strauss on a regular basis, like that's gone. But you know,
yeah, I would say Priest definitely has the most, but it comes from very specific neutrals, right? Wand Maker, Scorpid, and perhaps Onyx Mage Scribe off of Studies.
and when the chain goes deeper and deeper, and there's discovers and discovers, yeah. And beyond even archetypes, we got this question from Tom Locke, the Swagoi owner, president, CEO.
No.
What's
I would say like overall captain, right? There's owner, then there's Tom Locke, then there's
It's
the team captain.
Swagoi figurehead Tom Locke, where he asked the question, what format and decks are the most various and least repetitive? I like playing Priest, but lately I started feeling like I do the same thing every game. We're all, I think, struggling to engage with Standard on a regular basis. Like, otherwise you're finding your way to make 15 attack Alakirs, and that's fun. But even though the current Standard meta is balanced and healthy, we have anecdotal feedback that people are like, I'm just kind of done playing this for now, including from us and from listeners and around the community. I finished my Win 5 ranked games today, and of course I will say it's not because of my win rate; it's because I wasn't playing. That must be it. But I also I finished it in Wild and Classic. It's not in Standard, and Standard's fine, whatever. But I can talk academically about how the format is okay. I'm not queuing it. I don't think that any of us are queuing it a lot. I mean, otherwise you're queuing it on stream.
Yeah, and this. I think I'm playing a lot because of this Control Shaman that is a passion project. But if not for like being really into trying to make this deck work, I don't know what I would be playing. It would honestly be hard to put that much together, just because everything feels like we've been doing it a while, even if it got new tools. The exception, of course, being Shaman. But even Shaman, their main winning game plan is Doomhammer kill you. And Doomhammer's been around a long time.
Yeah. And it's had its ups and downs and how good it is, but the mechanism's the same. We're still rock biting. Right? Like, it's still the same thing. And then the alternative is play the curve deck. And a lot of people seem to be enjoying Elemental Shaman. But there are a lot of memes about some decks being just play on curve when they're not really. No Elemental Shaman, you play the elemental that matches how much mana you have that turn if you want to win.
Yep.
And sometimes you skip from you play 2 3s and one of them's on 2 with Kindling Elemental. But otherwise you are actually playing in order by design. That's what you want to do. That's your best draw, is playing 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. And
when you've gotten a bunch of stuff cleared and you have to play a bunch of smaller elementals, you're in a tough spot, right? Because they dealt with your curve.
Yeah. And when you have an active Lily Pad Lurker on 5 and they have no minions, you're like, oh, I guess I'll play a Pit Fighter. It's 5/6. It's fine. It's like it's big, but so a lot of the things that we've put our heads together and thought about as to why this feeling is, we've talked about these on the show before. But we want to try and put them all together and sleuth them out. And I think the limited card pool, we've definitely talked about before. But we want to really, like, talk about, even with the Wailing Caverns cards being added to the pool, we're doing a few different things and playing a few different cards. But overall, not a lot of major stuff changed.
Yeah, we got a 35 card bonus, but that still means we are down quite a few cards from what we would usually have in a 4-set meta. I believe we're still down 35 cards, at least.
Yeah, we're down too many sets.
Yeah, on successive, of this point in time, 4-set plus a mini set, we are 70 cards fewer. I don't actually recall off the top of my head how many fewer cards we have compared to Classic Basic. Slight illusion because there are a bunch of non-functional cards in Classic Basic, but we certainly have very few cards compared to what we're used to right now. And that has led to the little bit of generation that there is very powerful. You look at, so Funky Monkey is another person who has been making some kind of control shaman, and it's a pile of discover effects. It's like Marsh Spawn and Scorpid and Guidance, because shaman has very good spells. There's a limited number of cards, and so the stuff you're getting is pretty good quality. And same thing for Priest with their generation. Draconic Studies, it's very good odds. You're going to hit one of the big Dragonflight ones. You're going to hit Alex or Malagos or Sarah, all of which situationally can be quite powerful. Also, pretty good odds you'll hit something like Skeletal Drake, the class Priest Dragon that gives you another random dragon, and that's quite a strong hit as well.
But even with the extra 70 cards, right? Even with the extra 70 cards we're missing, is this just how 4-set metas are? Is this just going to be a way that 4-set metas are, and we're not really going to have enough where it's going to stay interesting for a full 4 months?
I think it certainly has been the case. I will be most interested in the 4-set meta of 2022. I think that will really be the test of, can the mini sets break us out of that feeling? And I'm not sure.
I mean, it might be that, you can make better cards that do that. Demon Hunter was a 4-set meta, but even that meta really didn't last all that long. Like, it overstayed its welcome. There were just 6 rounds of balance changes, and there was enough going on there that by the end it was interesting. But there was still, I remember what Firebat said about when he was asked about Warrior and Demon Hunter, and he was asked if they were too strong, and he said no, the other classes are too weak and incomplete. So I have to play a bunch of cards that I don't want to play, and when I draw those, I don't have a deck, and when I draw the good ones, then I do.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a forever problem? And
I think the goal is no, because in the past, our 4-set metas have included Classic Basic. So even though we had more cards, like I said, a lot of them were non-functional. We're going to have 70 more mostly real cards for the 2022 4-set meta. So I would be willing to make a prediction that if we're going to go back to something Ungoro-y, something that feels like really good 4-set meta, that'll be the time, because we'll have a mini set paired with every set, and those are going to be more powerful cards on average than what we had with Classic Basic.
maybe they can do some funky stuff with the next core set, too.
Yep, absolutely. I think this being the first year of core set has probably been a testing ground in terms of, okay, what can we keep? What should we keep or not? I imagine they intend for the dragonflights to stay, but things like Doomhammer, I feel like that's a pretty good one to rotate next core set. Doomhammer Rockbiter weapon seems like those could go. And I don't know, maybe Mage loses Fireball but gains Frostbolt back or something like that. They can do a lot of interesting swaps. And I think in particular after having certain cards gone away, it'll be that much more of an interesting feeling to get them back.
Yeah, we don't know we didn't know how much we were missing until we lost Shield Block and Savage Roar, and we're like, oh, that was a lot. That was significant.
I see it now. Title of this episode: Is Hearthstone dying? All capital letters, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. We have pictures of all three of our faces, tears streaming down all of them. Stealer of Souls with a big X mark through it. I see it now.
We're going into 5-set meta, right? And 5-set meta is going to be glorious.
Edelweiss, I hate to break it to you. I think Bodicus was being sarcastic. I don't think that he meant what he said.
I would never meme on a co-host. That would never happen.
No. Bodicus, what was the last meta that really grabbed you? Like, that really, really grabbed you?
I don't know. It goes in and out, right? Like, I was actually pretty grabbed by this Miracle Rogue that I played to Legend just last month.
It's super fun.
And
still good.
Then I started playing it again, and I wasn't winning as much with it, so I kind of lost interest. So it's hard to tell. Like, the most invested I've been was when I was on the show and I finished. I want to say I finished top 100 Legend. I think
you were around there. I think it was either just inside or just outside.
I thought it was 95, or I might have logged off at 95, but it was during. I think that was Combo Priest. I'm fairly certain it was Combo Priest I was playing.
Yeah, I don't know which Combo Priest, but I think it was a Combo Priest.
It was Potion of Madness.
Oh, that was Dragon Combo.
Priest.
Yeah. Dragon Combo. Yeah. I think
so. It was a long time ago, but like, I don't know. It goes in and out, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, it almost feels like Hearthstone is constant, and the thing that affects it the most is what I'm doing outside of it.
Very true.
Which isn't Hearthstone's fault necessarily. I guess no. I would say I was extremely, extremely invested when Battlegrounds came out. When Battlegrounds was in beta, I played that nonstop. I played that an incredible amount of hours when it first came out. And it's still enjoyable to play, but it's not. But it's a new. And I think that's like kind of, I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe Hearthstone just doesn't feel new right now. And
I've actually been
the amount of new that it feels doesn't hold my attention as much.
Yeah.
I've been playing TFT instead of BGs. So now I just never play BGs.
Well, and Edelweiss, you mentioned this, that the archetypes that are good right now, this is very much a callback to Hearthstone's history, and it's okay to have these archetypes back in the game, though I would guess that the reason why something like No Minion Mage is so popular still, even though it's real bad right now, is because it's different. Because it's a different new thing that people wanted to be good for a year, and it was terrible for a year, and then it was finally good, and people are playing the crap out of it. And now it's fine. It's back to not that good, but people are still playing the crap out of it.
Yep, I run into it every now and again, but I beat a whole lot more flows on 2.
Yeah.
I beat those a lot more often.
And anytime I see people keep a refreshing spring water in their opening hand and cast it for 5 mana after they flow, it is
Ooh,
almost always just
no.
terrible and they lose.
Yeah.
And what is new is how they change balance, is how they do balance changes. But I think if we look at the balance changes they did, this kind of reminds me of Skolo a little bit, where a lot of the changes outside of the first change 2 weeks in, where they had to take Paladin down a peg and get rid of Lunacy on 2, that enabled more stuff. But then after that, they kind of took a bunch of stuff away. And the changes have taken stuff away, but I don't know how much they've really enabled. For example, Paladin is unplayable right now. It is completely non-viable. I don't know if that's because of just the nerfs, or if it's the nerfs in the combination with Wailing Caverns. But it was the story of the first 2 months, and we said that it has to not be the story going forward, but now it's a different story of, look what they did to my boy. Look what they did to Uther. He's gone.
And it's kind of a bummer, right? Because the intent, I don't believe, was to kill the deck, because they haven't been doing that.
No.
I think they wanted it to stand on the same ground, and it just got a little bit too far of a nudge. They hit the 2 cards that were in everything, and they hit them hard enough that now just Paladin is off the map. And I don't know whether it should have been, okay, just hit first day, don't hit Hand of a Doll, or vice versa. Maybe it's a case of, well, since they're aggressive cards, the numbers are just too tight, that an adjustment of one number is so much of a big deal one direction or the other that it's either too strong or bad. I'm not sure, but I would have thought that we could be playing Libram Paladin and still beat things, still beat Shaman, especially because Doomhammer does not want to see a Divine Shield 8/8 taunt, but you no longer can keep up with some of the other early game.
And also, Libram of Hope does not want to see Lily Pad Lurker. That's bad news. You don't really want to do that.
That is true.
Yes. But also there's the question, if they had left Paladin, would Shaman or Death Rattle Demon Hunter exist? I don't have an answer to that. I don't know. It's hard, because in this size of a meta and this small of a meta, they don't have that many options for balancing, and the outliers are so limited in number. If we were still playing Paladin cards, it would be worse than the current meta for sure. Is there a middle ground? I don't know. But the way they've been nerfing things has been small nudges, and most of them have ended up removing decks from the format for some reason or another. Like, Jandis to 6 ended up being the right call. Still seeing play, because that card's crazy. Penflinger not going face. Probably a good idea. A limited playstyle, but not one that I think we still wanted to happen. But removing Crab Rider removed a lot of early game pressure. You don't get to play buff Paladin anymore. But also losing to Edwin Van Crab wasn't super great either. There are so many situations where I don't know how many good options we have. And again, the current meta that we have, balanced and healthy, but none of us really want to queue it. So, like, would we want to queue if the watch posts were still good? No.
Probably not.
So, audio listeners, my other 2 co-hosts both made a face. They expressed their disgust visually.
Yeah, well, and I want to go back to, like, classic archetypes reimagined in the modern world. This is true to a point, right? We have Miracle Rogue and all these other things that we've kind of seen, but
Face Hunter.
You think of Face Hunter, but you think of, okay, what was the classic Warlock thing? Zoo. You just can't do it, and unfortunately,
You just can't do it?
that you can't do it. Yeah, and I think that's a result of
Bodicus made a face to that one too. Audio listeners.
Modern Warrior, because the Modern Warrior is built around Rush. That is how they're doing Tempo Warrior now. And I'm not sure that a deck like Rush Warrior and a deck like Zoo can exist in the same game. because Zoo lost all its damage from hand. First, was it first Leroy, then Doomguard, or other way around?
Doomguard first.
Yeah, Doomguard, then Leroy, and then Soulfire. And now you just can't close out the game, and you often can't, like, take the board. Zoo has become more and more a combo aggro deck. And once we sort of lost the ability to do that with the 2-1 that discarded your most expensive going away, so you can't consistently discard Hand of Gul'dan, like, it's just not happening. You have to have Broomstick to be able to swing back. I've seen a couple of people do stuff with Stealer of Souls to cheese out a very quick Flesh Giant, but again, very combo-y, not what we think of in terms of aggro, Zoo, fight for board, hard and fast, stay on the board, win, because other decks remove your things while making a thing, right? Like, it doesn't hold up.
Well, that's also, you could print a density of cheap, powerful stuff and have Zoo end up being relevant. They just have decided to not do that. And so Zoo decks are dependent on Hand of Gul'dan, which is icky. And Dark Glare at 2 mana, like, I don't think there's a problem with a Zoo deck playing Dark Glare at 2 mana and Flesh Giant, but it doesn't have any of the other stuff in the meantime. And Warlock has been getting a lot of weirdo, like, disruption minions and slow buffy minions, and those aren't good. Like, I don't even remember the name of the card. 3 mana 3/3 that Battlecry and Death Rattle give another minion +1/+1. Didn't even see play for 1 second.
That should be an amazing Zoo card. And what I'm saying is just, I don't think you can do that while Rush Warrior exists.
I mean, I don't know if that would be an amazing Zoo card in 2014. But a 3 mana 3/3 that is 2 Shattered Sun Clerics stapled together, that just might be a little outdated in terms of costing.
Like, it's better statted than Sun Cleric. It's a 3/3, not a 3/2.
But you're competing with Wriggling Horror. Like, a card like Wriggling Horror.
But you should do both, right? You should do both, and you should have eggs. But like, it just doesn't hold up.
The mana isn't quite right.
And you need Voidwalker, and I think you also need Soulfire.
Yeah.
Like, we have the Leroy replacement in Alex.
I think you legit need Soulfire.
But, like, you need a way to finish the game, because there's Zoo's good when you have cards like Soulfire and Doomguard and Leroy. That's when, like, Zoo was almost always playable until they removed Doomguard. And now that both Doomguard and Soulfire are gone, and like, I contributed a bit to Voidwalker, but when I think about it, it's like, the games you win as Zoo, you get your opponents to 5 life and then they die. Or you get your opponent to 4 life and they die.
Right. And now the only burst that exists requires you to have board still. Or
9 mana.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think Rush Warrior. Right. Yeah. I don't think Rush Warrior is the only limiting factor here either. Because you try and play Zoo against Face Hunter, all of the things that cheap Warlock has had to do lately involve paying life for mana or cards. Yeah. And Face Hunter's like, feel free to pay that life, friend. Piercing shot you.
But no, this is I emphasize Rush Warrior because it has, Rush in the name, but rogues with 1 mana of Islespine and your Brain Freeze, and hunters even have Kolkar Pack Runner. So everyone has some version of remove the opponent's stuff while making your own, and Warlock just doesn't really do that.
I'm just going to say, I think the issue here is not what other decks are doing. It's that all the Zoo Warlock cards they printed are bad. Like, you could make all of these cards a mana cheaper and make a deck here. They just haven't put enough power behind it, because I don't know if they want that to be the thing. If Cabal Outfitter, the 3 mana 3/3 that on the way in and out gives something +1/+1, if that was a 2 mana 2/2 instead, boy, that card's a lot better. And I'm not saying they should make that card. I don't want another Scrap Imp or whatever. But you can make Zoo cards more efficient, or give them more tools, and they're trying to do that. They tried to do that with Fiendish Circle, which almost worked, but then didn't. And this leads into my next question. Outside of N'Zoth and Fiendish Circle, which I just named, can you name the other 8 buffs they did? Can you remember them? Because most of them didn't matter.
Was Lilypad Lurker one of them? Or was
Yes.
that the older one?
Nope, Lilypad Lurker was one of them.
It was another Shaman buff. I know that there were at least 2 cards in Shaman that got buffed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was
Oh, no. That
There's another
one got
elemental.
changed, right? Unbound Elemental just got changed. It's the
No, it got
same
buffed and then also
functionality.
changed. Buffed and also changed. It was a
3/4.
yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a 2/4, then
It
a
was a
3/4.
3/4, and then
Yep.
it did 3/4, yeah.
And also Title
But
Surge
that
from
wasn't
Shaman.
Title Search?
Used to be that card used to
Yeah,
cost 4.
yep. Used to cost 4. That was
I
honestly the
thought
most
when they-
significant one.
I thought when they added it to the core set that it
Nope.
always
They
costed.
gave it life steal when they added it to the core set, and that was an improvement.
Oh.
But it still embarrassingly cost twice as much as Drain Soul.
Now
okay.
it costs 50%.
Now it's a
it
Shadow
costs
Bolt.
50% more for 1 extra damage and healing.
It's a
It's
Shadow
Shadow
Bolt that
Bolt with
scales
life
with
steal.
nature damage and gives you life steal. Like if you Brucon Title Surge, you gain 8. If you Moarg and Title Surge, you gain 8. Like, it's fine. It's.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd call this
and
buff
the
irrelevant.
other one
but
scales with Tasman and
Tamsin.
Moarg.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
yes.
Same minion.
So, Razor
I want
Boar.
to say Talisman.
Yes, that was a 2/2.
Razor Boar got
Yep.
buffed, and that was relevant. But also they printed a bunch of
Yeah.
cool new Death Rattle cards. Zanesh got bug fixed. Not seeing a lot of Zaneshes.
Right.
Oh,
Fiendish,
that's the one that... Yeah.
the corrupt one. Fiendish Circle from 4 to 3. We tried that out for a day or so.
Yep.
Deck of
Tokens
Chaos.
just aren't cutting it. That's why Dude Power
Oh,
doesn't
yeah?
work either.
Deck of
How
Chaos.
much does that cost now? I don't even know. It costs 5.
It went from
now?
6
Cost
to
5
5.
instead of 6.
Yeah. It went from unplayable to
Just
unplayable.
make it cost the same as the other deck. Why not?
No,
Yeah,
I
I
don't want this
honestly-
card to be good. Just don't spend a buff on this card. don't bother with the. I mean, I guess it's a freebie. They threw it in. It's fine. That cost 5, but it didn't change anything. Whirling Combatant from a 2/6 to a 3/6. I'm sure this
Yeah,
is gonna
that-
be relevant at some point.
That would it's going to
Oh,
be
that's the
relevant.
warrior card?
It's going to be
Yeah.
relevant if there's 1 health minions that we want to kill.
If they make Zoo good, they make
Yep,
Zoo good,
I guess.
so they can make Whirling Combatant good.
If
Shield-
Stealth Rogue was good, it would be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I tried Stealth Rogue. You can't do it.
It's just draw cards with field contact. You don't need to work so hard.
Yep. Yeah.
Shield Maiden to 5, which I think this will be relevant, but we
Okay.
haven't seen it.
It
Yeah.
was relevant when it first happened, but then
Control Warrior sucks.
Controller Warrior has just fallen off a cliff.
It's bad. And then N'Zoth,
I mean,
which
if,
is by far the most impactful. Oh, go ahead, Puck.
well, if Paladin was still good, I think Control Warrior would probably be good, right? I assume that's a decent matchup,
Does
or
the-
is it not?
Lady Liadrin is really not what Control Warrior wants to see. Like if
yeah,
you if
no,
you
that
have a
wasn't the
good hit
issue.
with your Mutinous, then sure. But otherwise, when every minion on board becomes a Pyroblast and you have 4 Librams of Hope, that's not what Control Warrior wants.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know. I,
mean-
don't play Control Warrior.
and nobody else does either because it loses. And then N'Zoth, which was by far the most impactful buff. It is the most played neutral in Standard per HS Replay's tweet yesterday, and it was super important and super relevant.
There's a part of me that still wonders how much of that was actually the mana change and how much was just
Other stuff
putting
going away.
visibility on it.
Also that, yeah. Maybe.
Because
Well,
I
also
don't
Death
think-
Rattle Demon Hunter got better.
yeah, with the exception of Death Rattle Demon Hunter, I don't think 9 versus 10 was that big a deal for majority of classes.
Probably true.
I
And we
think
also
it
figured
really
out-
just shined a light on it.
And we figured out what to do with it in Priest.
Yeah.
And I could see, like, in some matchups in Priest, getting back your P Elemental and your 5/5 a turn later is really strong. Or a turn earlier. Can be
Yeah,
relevant.
for sure.
But yeah, I don't know how much it was the buff versus the card. Like, Blizzard encouraging people to try out the card, which we've seen before. You know, Pocket Galaxy was buffed to 5 and then moved back to 7, was still really good at 7.
I kind of feel like it went to 9, which spotlighted it for Death Rattle Demon Hunter, where it legit does matter, and then sort of showing how good it was in that deck sort of made people realize, oh hey, we've got a lot of different creature types. We can throw this in things. We can put Scoundrel in our control decks so that we've got a big pirate to bring back.
It worked out. So, all right, a few more questions. Do we think that Priest is making things more boring? I don't think it's specifically Priest. But Priest is, if you read the latest Vicious
Depends
Syndicate
where you
report...
Priest was the Demon Hunter before Demon Hunter existed. People just hate that class.
Yes. And if you
They
look
just
at the
hate
latest
losing to
Vicious
that
Syndicate
class.
report, a lot of decks and archetypes are being limited by Priest. But that's really mostly at high levels of play, and it's not holding up win rate-wise otherwise. But the playstyle leads to longer games, and Apotheosis is a card that makes people uninstall the game, and I don't know. I don't think, personally, that is intensely problematic, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's exacerbating some negative feelings people have.
I think in a format where, or a meta rather, where there is much less generation, Priest stands out for the amount that it does. And getting to discount on top of that because of free mana card. Never recall.
Palm reading?
Palm reading, yeah. Like, palm reading just like smooths it all over. The extra generation that they get from Wand Maker and Scorpid and everything. Palm reading just makes it all like way easier to fit everything in. And it really takes most advantage of all the neutral generation. And as well, and on top of its own. So
yeah, on top of
it's the one deck where you look at the tracker and it can barely contain all the cards that they've played. And Apotheosis, as you mentioned, it leads to a style of playing against Priest where you kind of try and like bait out the Apotheosis so that they, maybe you can get them to use it early on something that you can torrent because you don't want them to Samuro Apotheosis you, which is the worst feeling because they clear your whole board and Reno.
So
it just... Sorry, go ahead.
So the cadence we're at right now, we should get 20.6 in about 2 weeks, and we should get 21.0 in about, or we should get 20.6 in about 2 weeks and 21.0 in 6 weeks, which is the next expansion. We're about 6 weeks out from the next expansion. That means that once a month they do balance changes. In 2 weeks, we should expect some kind of balance change based on their timeline and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
The nerf I would suggest is Apotheosis to 4, because I want Samuro Reno, like the Samuro combo, to be a little later, and I don't think that Priest is too good, but I think the experience of getting Apode sucks, and that can just come on later in the game. Also, it makes it harder to combo with Xyrella, and I'm okay if Priest needs to hit Soul Mirror into 2 4-mana cards, as opposed to, just get Apotheosis down. It also means basically every good Priest card is just going to move to 4. Hysteria at 4, Samuro at 4, Xyrella at 4, Apotheosis at 4. But they can discount it anyways with palm reading if they want to. I just think they should work a little harder at it.
Yeah.
But what balance changes would you all like to see? If any.
Honestly, I could see like palm reading. I don't think they'll do this, but palm reading to 2 but doesn't reduce your hand. Like, I know that's very different.
2 mana discover a spell.
I sure make it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you kind of can't get rid of the.
It's not a card if you get rid of that.
Yeah, it's not a card because Renew does that while healing you.
I think in my opinion. The issue is just that you are either a deck that beats Priest and the games go by quickly, or you're a deck that loses to Priest and it takes you forever to find out that you're actually dead.
Yeah.
And so
100%. I think that
unfortunately,
game length is a thing here.
yeah, I think it's just that, people are used to the average game of Hearthstone takes 5 to 6 turns, right? Like, kind of globally over the course of Hearthstone's existence, anywhere from 5 to 7 turns for each player is about the length of a game of Hearthstone. And unless you're playing against a priest, and if you're playing a deck that generally loses to priest, then it's just going, like, it doubles or triples your game length time, and it feels pretty miserable. And sometimes you end up winning those games, and it probably doesn't feel that great because it took forever, or you lose those games and it feels even worse because you spent three times the amount of time losing a game. And I don't know, I still somewhat enjoy playing priest, but I don't play that many games with it because it's super time consuming.
Yeah. We were talking before the show, and I think this should have been the week where we all committed to playing Priest the last week, and then we had a Priest episode here. But I definitely did not want to spend the time playing that much Priest trying to learn it because the games are just so much longer than what I want to do. Like, it's when I'm playing 23 1-drops Odd Demon Hunter, I can get in 4 of those games in the train. In a Priest game, I couldn't finish a single one.
And I'm not playing a fast deck with my Control Shaman. But I believe my games are still faster because I run a win condition. Like, a thing that I intend to do to win the game. It's not what I do to win every game, but it's a goal. To some extent, it's been good that Priest runs N'Zoth because that does shut the door on games in a way that it previously, could not do. But Priest has felt a lot like, okay, at what point do I just grind you out of stuff and then, get some random dragon that can close this out? And that just doesn't feel good to me. I want to run a win condition that I intend to use.
I think this patch coming up is one where they have the opportunity to buff stuff in large numbers as well if they want to. I'm looking at the Warlock cards. I don't even know what you would buff. Trying to, everything I can think of would be super toxic. Maybe you make Midway Maniac like a 2/4 instead of a 1/5. But I don't even know what to do to fix a lower curve Warlock deck. I don't think there's a buff that solves this problem, and that's kind of the issue, is that we don't have cards that are almost good enough. We are missing pieces, and you can't buff those into existence. But I don't know, maybe there's opportunity for buffs.
You know what I think their plan is?
What's that?
I think the actual plan is to let stuff like this happen, and what eventually their goal is going to be is that you will have your expansion, there's hype with it, and then you have the 0.2 change, which is the big battlegrounds change, and that's the people's focus on, and then you have the mini set expansion, people focus on that, and then you have mercenaries or whatever their new thing is, and instead of trying to fix this problem that I don't know that it has a fix for necessarily, you just fill it with other content that's enjoyable. And honestly, I'm fine with that.
And they've talked about wanting the 0.6 update to also be to give Battlegrounds a little bit more love later in that cycle, because BGs, if you think about how Standard felt before minisets, that's how BGs feels right now. That you go 4 months and you have one big change, and they want to make the 0.6 change a little bit more substantial. Maybe we'll see some of that in a couple weeks. But yeah, it's I think that's a good answer. I think that makes a lot of sense, because unless you look at some kind of dramatic and significant shift to how rotation works, and you make it like a 1-in, 1-out system all the time, which I don't think they need to do or should do, because that diminishes the magic of Rotation Day, then yeah, the other stuff in Hearthstone is interesting, and I mean, we've all been playing, just not Standard. That's kind of okay, right?
I'm playing Standard.
Okay, you're streaming Standard.
I always play Standard. I even play standard. Like when I am playing right now, I am playing standard. But like I said, it's because I have this pet deck.
You need to go to wild. Step 1.
I probably should.
Step 1.
Look, I've got
take
a problem
them
when
under.
it comes to deck building.
Step 1, take them under. Step 2, glide them. Step 3, hit them with the taint.
Okay, I do want to try that deck hat. That does sound fun.
Take them.
But yeah,
Glide them.
when I'm in the deck building lab,
taint 'em.
I just can't.
In that order. I think we're done here, right? We're done. We're gonna go now.
Yeah, I suppose so.
This conversation is tainted. All right. Yeah, I think we're done here. All right. Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, Concede.com. You can find our content info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show, patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email, coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. Let's like some CC swag. Heading over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Tinder, Wizard, Doge, DK, Proby1, Dr. Fish, Crash, Cap, B-Squatch, David P, Snowpack, and Taro, Lucky, Fade to Black, and Waloo. Good morning, Raven. Thanks for popping in. You're awake at... Gosh. Oh, man. The casters
Early.
have to
Early.
reset the schedule. Yeah.
Yep.
Good luck with that, Raven. We'll be rooting for you. You have to be awake enough to not let Sottle get away with quips. So, also big thanks to our Twitch subs. Proby1, you're amazing, as always. And Coin Concedes, I'd like to Coin Concede to Lulu. We had a coaching today, and it went very well. She streamed it, and it was a lot of fun. We went 7-0 with Rush Warrior, so, of course, that was a good day. And Draco Cat, thank you for giving us the gift of this Undertaker Demon Hunter Taint deck. Big fan. Yes, I'm going to say that word as many times as I can this episode, Botticus.
Oh, dear.
Edelweiss, who are your coin concedes?
Coin concede to Racy once again. He lives! The panda lives. Very, very happy with that. Wish him a speedy recovery. Maintaining that 70% win rate. So, and then coin concede as well to Risen and Cookie Monster, my teammates, who have both progressed through Aspirant. Perhaps they will... Actually, they might be on the same side of the bracket, so I guess they would have to meet in the semis, not the finals. But yes, I'm proud of them both. They're doing very well, and it would be hilarious if Cookie could get the 3 times Aspirant win. That would be pretty funny.
Yes. It is true. He is a monster. And Botticus, coin concedes?
So I don't know if this is a coin concede or an anti-coin concede, but I will coin concede to Hat for editing the show every week, except last week.
I processed the show
last week.
It was close. And I would like to
and
coin
also
concede you...
for sending me, and also, sending me 2 articles that were relevant to my interests.
And your health. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. I would also like to coin concede to Botticus for recording his audio this week. That's really great.
Hey, the show's not over yet, and I haven't uploaded it. Don't get ahead of yourself.
I don't think you'd be that spiteful, but I've been wrong before. So that's gonna do it this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We still love the game, but right now we're just trying to work with our feelings on why we're playing Standard a little bit less, and we'll be back. I have faith. And in the meantime, keep calm and glide on 4. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right. We're going to stop recording here. Thank you so much,
So this
Twitch
is
chat.
where I click the X button, right?
No.
I will end you. All right. So, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate you. Raven, good luck with your sleep schedule. And I hope you do not have to cast many priest mirrors. Though I also hope that players don't fall asleep between rounds, because that's totally going to be a thing. And we'll talk to you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.